In today's video, we're going to be talking about how you can still turn the other cheek while protecting your family from harm as a Christian man. Alrighty, well, welcome to another episode of Coffee Talk. And you're out here on the Hopeful Homestead with me, my family's little 21-acre farm that we're going to be building our forever home on here in the next year. And right now you're in my little tiny cabin on wheels, parked out here on my little campsite. And this is where I like to do all these Coffee Talk videos, where I sit in my cabin drinking some coffee, chatting with you guys about all the difficult things in life from the perspective of husbands and fathers. Today's topic, as I mentioned at the start of the video, is how can you still turn the other cheek, practice passive nature, love your enemy, everything that this book teaches us as men of faith. How can you put that into practice while still being willing and capable of defending your family from harm's way? That's a very fine line that this scripture does break down. And if you haven't seen already, I actually have done a couple of videos breaking this down with some of the scriptures that actually teach us when it's okay to defend yourself versus when it's not. And you might be surprised if you haven't dove into those areas of scripture yet. You might be surprised at some of the stuff you find, specifically in Luke, where you actually see Jesus commanding his disciples to carry swords with them, which is mind-boggling to me that as a Christian my whole life I've never had a pastor teach me about that verse. So I encourage you, go check out that other video where we break down some scriptures from Exodus and Luke, and we discuss exactly how the Bible actually teaches us it's okay to defend yourself and your family. But in today, I wanted to diverge into a little bit more of some nuance on this subject, where Jesus is pretty clear. Violence and harm and hate, all not acceptable. So how can you, as a Christian man, carry guns, own guns, train, be willing to use physical violence in defense? How do you practice turning the other cheek and loving your enemy while also being willing to defend yourself and your family? As a man, it's my duty to protect my family as their husband and father. And so in those scenarios, using violence to protect them is imperative if I have to. If there's a life and death scenario, and again, in Exodus, it's pretty clear on this being all right, you are permitted to use lethal force. It's not considered murder. If you are literally stopping, if you are protecting life by ending another life, if an innocent life is about to be ended by the actions of someone, you are not committing murder by ending their life to protect the innocent life. And so knowing that, in congruence with knowing that we're supposed to always aspire to turn the other cheek, aspire to love your enemy, I think it means that as an overall arching perspective, going out into the world, we look to preserve peace, to protect life, to love and selflessly care for everyone, including our enemies. And that means if your enemy is trying to destroy you in any other way other than ending your life, you are commanded to show love to them and to try to be the better man in the scenario. If someone's trying to take you down in business, or someone's cheating to get ahead of you in your career, all of these things are scenarios where it might spark some vengeful thinking in your mind as a man, and that's only natural to do, and I get it. But in those instances, we are called not to use violence and not to be harmful, but to love our enemies and pursue peace and love in those scenarios. Can't say that I'm always going to be able to be exactly right in those scenarios, because I'm still a human and I'm still a man. I will at least aspire to do the right thing. But when it comes to actually preserving your family's safety, your kids, if you're at home and someone breaks in the middle of the night and is in your daughter's bedroom attacking her, I have a hard time justifying morally turning the other cheek in that scenario, especially when it's not my own personal safety. If it's my kids' safety and well-being that I am in charge of preserving and protecting, I can't imagine. Jesus doesn't actually break down, to my knowledge, unless I'm wrong here, there's nowhere that he's specifically speaking to the role of a father or a husband protecting his family from harm and being willing to use harm to do so. If you are in the role of a husband and a father, and that's your phase of life you're in, you are called to additional standards and additional responsibilities than just a typical man who is not in that role is called to. God constructed the family to be the way that it is, as a man, a wife, and children, and the man as the spiritual head and leader of the family, protecting and providing for that family. And so, as I've discussed in other videos too, about what providing your family for your family can look like as a man in today's world, not necessarily being linked to just providing monetarily, but in other ways, I like to know that I provide protection and safety for my family. And I will look to turn the other cheek if I'm out in public. A drunk guy starts acting up somewhere and starts threatening me, and I will look to avoid and flee and get away from all I can. I will not try to put that guy in his place because, as a man, he deserves it. That's where I would be in the wrong. Now, if he starts actually trying to end my life in some capacity, or starts to make a move on some innocent woman out in public and she's defenseless, now I'm called to protect her and use lethal force if necessary. And if I'm wrong on any of this, I'll have to stand before God. If a day comes that I have to use lethal force, if I have to take out my gun and end someone's life that is trying to harm my kids or my wife or myself, and I have to answer to God for that later, based on scriptures I've read, I don't believe that I will be in the wrong. That's something I'll have to have a conversation with God about because when I'm in heaven, because I believe I'm doing the right thing. I'm aspiring to protect their lives. What else am I supposed to do as a husband and dad, right? What are we supposed to do as men to protect our families from harm? But that's going to do it for today. Thanks for watching, guys. This is the Hopeful Homestead, and this has been another episode of Coffee Talk. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. Hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.